up, Taiwan? I'm Jeremy Olivier with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Controversial changes to Taiwan's highest court are up for vote in the legislature. If they pass, more justices would be required on the Constitutional Court to make rulings, which could paralyze the body. Rick Lauert has been following the reforms that have caused political and social divides and joins us live from the legislature. Rick, what's at stake here?
Well, here at Taiwan's legislature, lawmakers are weighing in on the Constitutional Court Act. This is a controversial new law that would require 10 justices of the 15-seat court to rule over each case. Now, in a sign of just how contentious this law is, this is actually the second time that the legislature will be discussing and voting on the law. They first passed it late last year, but Taiwan's cabinet has tossed it back to the legislature and asked lawmakers to reconsider. Yesterday, the head of Taiwan's cabinet said that the change could harm Taiwan's constitution and that it could paralyze the country's judiciary system because at the moment there aren't enough justices sitting on the court. Now, the main opposition parties, which have control of this legislature, say they want to strengthen Taiwan's court. They say they want more rigorous reviews of the issues brought before it. One of those main opposition parties held a press conference earlier today here at the Legislative Yuan.
司法的公信力持续探底，人民希望借由司法找回公平正义的道路越来越遥远。这正是为什么台湾民众党党团我们在立法院里面过去这段时间，我相信大家都可以很清楚的看到，我们一直努力在做的，就是在帮民进党兑现他们跳票的承诺。
Taiwan's main opposition party has said that they're determined to resolve this issue today and that they plan to vote and again pass this law by the end of the day. But amendments like this are splitting Taiwan's society. They're prompting warnings from lawyers and scholars, and they've also brought tens of thousands of people at times out onto the streets around this legislature in protest. Behind all this is deep political division here in Taiwan. The ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or the DPP, has control of the presidential office, whilst two main opposition groups have the majority here in the legislature. Each side is now accusing the other of playing party politics with Taiwan's top court and says that the country's democracy is at stake.
Thanks, Rick. That was Rick Lauert reporting from the legislature. We'll be back with more updates on the vote later today. To learn more about the amendments, Alec McDonald spoke to Jian Zilin, constitutional law professor at Academia Sinica.
I want to start off by asking, are the proposed changes by the Kuomintang actually aiming for reform, or are these part of political gamesmanship that they're using in this split legislature right now?
I think it's more political than, reform, a judicial reform or something, because we actually the current Constitutional Court Procedure Act was effective in 2022. To me, I could be biased, but to me, I think the legislative intent of the new Constitutional Court Procedure Act, the amendment, obviously intend to paralyze the court because of the frustration of the previous one of the previous decisions the court has made to frustrate the legislative effort to expand their own power. So I guess the legislators were really unhappy about that decision, which is why they want to paralyze the court by this way. So it's not really about judicial reform or something, it's simply a political game.
What could we see as the next stage if these amendments pass?
Well, there are many arguments so far because it's really complicated. If the bill is passed today, again, then the next step will be the President Lai. And there are some arguments that said President Lai has the power not to promulgate the law if find it unconstitutional. But this is not my opinion. I think we do not need to give the president the power to decide unilaterally whether a law should be constitutional or not. And then the next step would be like something like, it could be that some persons would change the constitutionality of the law in the Constitutional Court. and then the battlefield will move to the Constitutional Court and to move to the justice themselves.
So moving forward, will the Constitutional Court then become the main battlefield for politics over the next 3 years, as we are only 1 year into this split legislature?
I think the Constitutional Court will become a battlefield in two senses. First, there are multiple ways. Well, this is common in every jurisdiction. There are multiple ways for the legislature to attack or at least contain a court they dislike. So even if this bill is declared unconstitutional and invalid, I believe that the legislature still has many ways to constrain the court. And this is actually not the first time Taiwan's legislature attacked the Taiwan's Constitutional Court. It has happened like at least 2 or 3 times in the past. I think if the Constitutional Court remains functioning, then you can imagine that the President Lai or his executive branch would continue to challenge the constitutionality of any statute passed by the legislature that they dislike. So you can see that there will be many constitutional cases being petitioned to the Constitutional Court, asking the justice, 8 or 15 or whatever between it, asking the Constitutional Court justice to adjudicate the constitutionality of those controversial bills or those controversial statutes.
That was Jian Zilin from Academia Sinica. Taiwan's Coast Guard has intercepted 4 Chinese Coast Guard vessels operating in restricted waters near Taiwan's outlying Kinmen Islands.
中国海警14608，中国海警14608，这里是中华民国海巡署 PP-100拐山艇呼叫，进入中华民国近现日水域，严重破坏区域和平稳定，影响海上航行安全及交通秩序，请立即转向驶离。
Taiwan dispatched 4 of its own Coast Guard vessels to escort the Chinese ships out of the area after detecting the breach Thursday morning. China routinely sends ships into waters around Taiwan. Last month, Taiwan detected around 90 Chinese military vessels in the area, part of suspected large-scale exercises. Firefighters in Southern California are struggling to contain the massive fires engulfing communities around the city of Los Angeles. As Chris Gorin reports, several neighborhoods have already been completely destroyed.
As the smoke clears in the Pacific Palisades community near Los Angeles, the extent of the damage is emerging. Whole neighborhoods reduced to ash. At least 10 people have been killed, and 200,000 ordered to evacuate. Aerial footage from local news shows people scrambling to leave their homes.
Look at all the palm trees in this neighborhood. Look at all of the landscaping. Look at people already trying to get in their cars and getting out of Dodge. It is time to get your essentials and get out now. Grab your pets. Get out now.
And the fires, spurred on by wind speeds of up to 160 kilometers per hour, show no signs of stopping. The 2 largest fires in the region are still burning out of control. As of Thursday local time, the largest fire, known as the Palisades Fire, was only 6% contained. The second largest, known as the Eaton Fire, near the city of Pasadena, was 0% contained. While the total number of buildings destroyed is still unknown, officials say that in the Eaton Fire alone, it's in the thousands.
We now have a confirmation that we have a potential for over 4,000 to 5,000 structures damaged or destroyed.
Some people have returned to their burned-down homes to see if any of their possessions remain. Many have likened the scenes to that of a war zone. That includes people who have experienced battlefields.
Like 2-3 days ago, it was beautiful, it was nice, but today it's something, all smoky, it's all burned out, and you could see all the burned cars, and you see like there's no houses and stuff like that. It reminds me back to like Afghanistan.
As people to continue to evacuate their homes, U.S. President Joe Biden and California Governor Gavin Newsom have committed to give all available resources to combat the fires. But with firefighters struggling to contain the flames, many are asking the same question. When will it stop? Klein Wong and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
A months-long political tug-of-war is coming to a head in Venezuela, with massive protests breaking out on the eve of the presidential inauguration. The country's opposition leader has been released after being detained for hours as residents push for President Nicolas Maduro to step down. Bryn Thomas has the latest.
Protests across Venezuela and around the world in a last-ditch attempt to block the country's strongman leader, Nicolas Maduro, clinging to power. Hours before he's due to be inaugurated for a third term, his opponents demand he stand down, still contesting the results of July's presidential election.
Y estamos aquí para cobrar las elecciones que hicimos gentilmente y felices cada uno de nosotros, entre risas, esperanzas de Dios para sacar a Maduro, porque el gobierno de Maduro ya es insostenible en todos los aspectos de la vida.
Siento que esta vez todos estamos unidos. Ya nadie quiere aguantar esta tiranía y esta dictadura tan horrenda que ha arrasado con nuestro país. Y ya nadie quiere ver nuestro país en esas manos.
Maduro has ruled the country of 28 million people since 2013. And in a special presidential election called 6 months ago, the government-controlled electoral authorities declared him the winner for another 6-year term. The opposition claimed the result was marred by fraud, saying their candidate, Edmundo Gonzalez, was the legitimate victor with 70% of the vote. Those accusations are backed by leaders across the globe who've called for election tallies to be released. Independent observers also found the opposition's tallies to be legitimate, and countries like the US have formally recognized Gonzalez as Venezuela's president-elect. But he was forced to flee to Spain in September after a court released a warrant for his arrest, accusing the opposition leader of conspiracy and terrorism amid the presidential dispute. That left popular opposition figure Maria Corina Machado in charge, and she's just addressed supporters for the first time in months.
Lo que haga mañana sentencia el final del régimen. Suman ese crimen a la Constitución y a la soberanía popular, estarán sentenciando su destino.
As Machado left the demonstration, she was detained by officials, but the arrest was short-lived, and she was released after leaders from across Latin America and U.S. President-elect Donald Trump denounced the move. Maduro's government said the news of her arrest was fabricated to dent the administration's reputation.
Y esa señora se estaba echando aire en su casa desde temprano. Jamás y nunca. Jamás. Miren, yo se los garantizo que si la decisión fuera detenerla, ya estuviera detenida.
Maduro's government has tightened security measures ahead of his inauguration, as opposition leader Gonzalez pledges to return to Venezuela to crash the re-election party. As the swearing-in ceremony draws closer, protesters here and around the world remain defiant, demanding change in a country they say has long been scarred by bad management. Dolphin Chen, Rosie Greninger, and Bryn Thomas for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more of our stories. Finally today, we take you to Ireland's County Carlow, where several mountains are coated in a thick layer of snow. I'm Jeremy Olivier. Take care and see you next time.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. For more stories from Taiwan and around the rest of the world, please visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow us on social media.